a federal requirement, you have a federally backed mortgage, you're going to likely be required, you need to make the evaluation and decision before January 10th for this area. Go ahead, please. This table just confirms that. FEMA does not do things simply. And in their defense, the United States is a big country, and mapping all this stuff is not easy, the variations. But in Ventura County, we actually have 3 different efforts going on. The current countywide DFIRM map that becomes effective January 10th is what impacts you. And so what I just said earlier today is the key date. But there are also a study going on in Santa Clara River. Tom identified that. It's the study that established the base flow elevations coming out of the river. That's still being vetted by the City of Oxnard, by ourselves, by the City of Santa Paula, by the City of Fillmore. We have some concerns about the modeling and the information and the data. But that vetting process will not be concluded in sufficient time to impact that map date that I indicated earlier. So that's why January 10th is critical if you're in this map shown earlier. Ventura River is yet to happen, so the key date for you folks is this date. So if you're in the plane identified on the map and you're federally insured, you need to evaluate and you're likely to be required to purchase it. That's when you want to buy it before that date. Go ahead, please. All right, FEMA has a great website, floodsmart.gov. You go there, you type in your address, you get an immediate assessment of your risk level and information on local insurance agents who handle flood insurance for you, as well as more information than you'd ever want to know about these things available. But it's a very cool interactive tool. You can also call their toll-free number, and through the efforts of the local Board of Supervisors and your City Council, we've gotten a specialist, Janet Critchfield, with a FEMA flood insurance specialist who can answer your questions directly. So you have 3 paths to get specific insurance risks, premium, and rate questions addressed. Go ahead, please. All right, now we're going to talk about our side of the ledger, the 2 levies. Tom had mentioned that one of the 6 levies that we are in the process of certifying is SCR1, Santa Clara River Levy 1. And it runs essentially from the bridge at 101 all along the north bank to past 118. It's the longest levee system in our district's inventory. It's just shy of 5 miles. It was an engineered and designed and built levee by the Corps of Engineers roughly 40 years ago. During the '69 storm, there was some significant damage on it. The Corps redeployed, repaired the damage, armored it, up-armored it, and that's the levee system that's in play now. Go ahead, please. During phase 1 evaluation of all these levees, we essentially deployed field investigation, evaluations, record search, the body of data that we had on each one of these levees, and gave it a physical exam. As a consequence, a report card was issued. Now, all these factors along here are the factors that Tom mentioned that have to be evaluated for each levee to meet the federal certification requirements. The bar here, the bars on this report card and the categories are critical. In essence, there were 3 possibilities when we evaluated each of our levees. If all the bars were to the left side of this first line, category 1, everything is okay, we package together, we send a report up to FEMA, done, and FEMA credits. If one or more of these bars are in this category 2 area, it means that everything is not necessarily okay or bad, but more work needs to be done. In this particular levee, the 2 critical issues that we're evaluating in this second period, this what we call our phase 3 period, is the embankment protection, the nature of how it was built, the rocks, is it still capable of protecting the area designed for the 1% annual chance flood, and maintenance of vegetation. Over time, in certain parts of this area, through natural processes, encroachments, folks planted or Mother Nature planted vegetation. Vegetation might be good for visualization and coverage, but if it's significantly large and the root balls go down, it starts destroying the base of the levee, just as any tree would destroy your concrete, your foundation. So we have 2 significant areas of evaluation that we're undergoing here in this levee that are necessary to reach certification by November 30th. And as Tom said, there are no guarantees, but we have deployed almost a third of our entire workforce and literally working nonstop these 7 months to make sure this happens in concert with our consultant. Go ahead, please. This table, it's in your slides as well, just kind of gives you a highlight of the requirements and the types of things we've got to do. Tom talked earlier about the freeboard. We've got to be sure that under the new base flood elevations, whatever they are in the Santa Clara River, certainly above this number, that there's adequate freeboard, 3 feet or higher, during that 1% chance event. We've got the embankment restoration and geotech work we talked about. We've got to make sure there's interior drainage. So all of this work is being done right now and will continue at a brisk pace through November 30th. And knock on wood, we'll be able to certify this levee. Go ahead, please. This is, you'll see perhaps in the next couple of, if you're out there in the next couple of weeks, we have 3 major test pits along the Santa Clara River where geotechnical investigation of the subsoil, or the substrata, the soil, the geology, the embankment, the revetment, the tow down is going on. So if you see equipment out on the river, you'll know that that's essentially what's happening. Go ahead, please. This chart is a little hard to read, but it's an attempt here to put in one chart the whole game plan. As I said earlier, this is our report card for Phase 1. This is what we've got to address. This is a depiction of the levee from 101 to 118. The color-coded areas are the areas where we need to evaluate significant issues. Excuse me. This long purple stretch is the area of rock and structural evaluation. So we've got to do a considerable amount of work throughout this area. This red area here are areas where we have vegetation problems. The vegetation is too close and too large, so we've got to deal with that in order to reach certification. I don't see any blue areas, which would there be structural encroachments nearby. Green, red, and yellow are variations of vegetation. If the vegetation is small and narrow, it's not that bad of a problem. It can be handled in different ways. But if it's deep and large, 4 inches or greater, it starts eating away at the structure of the levee, so we've got to take it out. And this just gives you some sense of the activity, our own, our consultants, and any external construction activity, and the time and the cost. Now, roughly, to certify this levee, it's going to cost us $2.1 million, the most expensive of all the levees in our system. Roughly, it's our estimate for certifying all our levees is $6.5 million, so this levee alone takes up $2.1 million in order to certify by November 30th. Go ahead, please. Now, to move southwest of Highway 101 to the ocean, okay, SCR1 ends there. And then from here on in, okay, is the major area of concern for our future project. Right now we have a combination of features. 2 small levees in red and 2 what are called stream bank protection measures. Now, and Jane will appreciate this from the old landfill war days, this is probably the only time the community finds a landfill being beneficial because it provides protection for the river. And so when that landfill was capped and closed, certain work was done to essentially create what's called a levee-like situation. And you can see on this map, even though the flow is coming through the gap, that's high area. So it does help us protect Oxnard in the flood protection. The problem, however, is this roughly 2,000 to 3,000 feet, it depends on how you measure the chord, from the scale area where there's a gap. There is no engineered levee system. Now, at the time the development in this area was approved, the floodplain was contained in the river based on those old flows. And the embankment that was there was viewed in the context of that time as adequate. But as the flow increases down the Santa Clara River for the reasons that Tom identified, wetter years, development upstream, more runoff, you have a higher river flow. And so regardless of the flow, the gap comes, the water flows through here and impacts the area.
Just for the sake of the folks, would you point out venues on that?
Sure. I will be happy to do that. Tom asked me if I pointed out some of the streets. Okay, there's the 101, there's the railroad bridge, there is Vineyard. Okay, there's Victoria is right down here.